What's going on, fam? Welcome to the Get the Bag podcast, episode 47. I am your host, Gladia Castro. Got my co host, Tim Park.
What
What's
up,
going on,
fam?
everybody? Don't forget, as I always say, hit the like button, subscribe, follow us on IG at Get the Bag Podcast. Um, and today's conversation, I think, stems with what's going on in the world right now. Obviously, we've been talking about this in previous episodes about the recession. Thing that's kind of going on in our the real estate market. I think interest rates are at 8, possibly going up to 10%, which is crazy to think.
Crazy.
Last year, it was like at between 2 and 3%.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, we'll kind of going to talk about really how to come out of this recession a millionaire or in a better position, at least, than you are right now. And some of
Mm-hmm.
the strategies that we're working towards to be in that position as well. Because from what I've learned, um, from others who are millionaires or just through their experiences, is there's tons of people from the '08 recession that came out millionaires because they weren't listening to what other people were telling, what the general public was saying, which was to fall back, you know, be very afraid. I know we're coming out of Halloween, just to not take any action, but these people did the opposite of that. And you'll learn as investors, you do have to move differently. So we're gonna, uncover that a little bit more. What we know other people are sort of doing, some recommendations on some resources. But you don't really think when with a recession, you
Mm-hmm.
can become a millionaire. So what sort of things, Tim, are you sort of prepping for um, during this recession? Because we've been in the recession now for several months. Um, what sort of things or actions are you taking?
Yeah. Just with talks with, I guess, the family office and other family offices that I'm connected with on the commercial side. A lot of it is now they have stacks of cash, and and now it's finding the right deals to actually pull the trigger on, so they can invest in and have that return when the market resets, right, and starts to improve. And that all the talks with these investors have been, buying something for kind of the long term and acquiring assets. And so it's more of an acquisition phase, a buyer's market for sure. I know for me, it's just partnering up with the right people in regards to getting some deals that they do have cash on hand and exactly what they're looking for. Because a lot of it now is like maybe not, it's not fix and flips, it's buy and holds, or, so it just really depends on what the investor is looking for. And, there's still people doing fix and flips, of course, but a lot fewer now than they were just because the market is shifting. And to the public right now, they don't
Hmm.
as we talk to sellers, they don't think there's a shift right now, right? So,
Right.
and so we had to educate the seller on, what the housing prices are doing currently. And, there has been a huge dip. And then a lot of my strategy has been shifted to is a lot of people are going to be losing their houses during foreclosures and stuff like that. So targeting sellers that are in trouble and trying to help them out and solve their solution, whether we can get them out of their house without any credit dings on them, or
Hmm.
finding creative financing solutions for them as well too. So even on the commercial side, having some creative financing, seller financing, so those situations are ideal.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a key point, especially if you're in the real estate industry, in marketing to sellers, is understanding how to educate or how to explain the circumstances. Because for the general public, which a lot of these sellers fall in, they're not savvy investors. Maybe they're just like, hey, I bought a few properties because, I like the passive income. They're usually managing the properties themselves, and they never really scaled. So and they also kind of fall in that general public stance where they don't take action unless it's like kind of in the news. Until it's out in the general news, people don't really worry so much about it. And because we're in the real estate groups, we're in these conversations
Mhm.
where with very experienced real estate investors who've been kind of giving us a heads up, like, hey, the market is turning. I'm turning liquid, meaning like I'm
Mhm.
cashing out, or I'm selling off to have more cash on hand than usual. Usually
Mhm.
investors don't want to have so much cash, but in this kind of turn of the market, you want to be as liquid as possible so that you have, when the opportunity comes, you're able to buy at a super discounted rate because the market has gone down. The supply is different from what it was a year ago. So it's once you kind of understand those trends, and you can kind of educate the seller. Like sometimes I'll send the sellers links to like what's happening on like specific articles, to kind of educate them. Sometimes that's not enough. They're like, well, I don't care, I still want this price. So it may take a few touches to get them
Mhm.
to understand, or maybe follow up with them in 3 months and see if something has changed. It takes some time for people to really understand and grasp the situation of a recession. um, but going back into coming out of the recession as a millionaire, I mean, a few things, at least that I've learned, or I know some people who have kind of taken these steps, is learning how to make money.
Mhm.
If you can learn how to make money and reinvest those funds into either your education, because you are the best investment, or into real estate properties, that's you're in a good place. Because what happens is people, and I mean, I'd say I'm not guilty of it at all, is that we spend money on liabilities.
Mhm.
Liabilities being cars. Although, and some people can argue the fact, hey, cars are an investment. You can make money off your car, but for the general public of how they use their cards, it's not really the case. Clothes, unnecessary, just stuff that's really
Yeah.
not needed. It loses value from the time that you purchase it.
Yeah.
Um, and instead, kind of delaying that gratification
Mhm.
to spending it, or putting it somewhere, having your money work for you.
Right.
And that's talked about a lot in plenty of books. And I think the biggest thing is knowing how to make money, obviously reinvesting your money, but also knowing the real estate game, knowing the real estate cycles. How do you underwrite a deal? How do you know what's a good deal? Because you can have the money, but if you're not reinvesting it properly, or if you don't know what a good deal looks like, you can spend a lot of money on a deal that's crap, and
Right.
you're in a bad position. So it takes steps, it takes phases. And a really good book on this is by David Lindahl, called Researching Emerging Markets. That's a book that I'm currently reading. And he kind of created the market cycle. He split up the market cycle in 4 phases. He's like, it's either going to be one of these phases. And he even lets us know, like, okay, at this phase is when you want to invest your money. In this phase is when you
Mhm.
probably want to sell. And so I think the phases are called, there's 4 phases. One of them is called the buyer's market, phase one. And
Mhm.
that's where a market that is oversupplied with property. So that was something last year, right? Like,
Yeah,
um,
totally.
there was a ton of properties everywhere. Then it phases into buyer's market phase two, where the market starts to absorb the oversupply. Vacant units become occupied and abandoned properties get purchased. So that may be something where it was kind of in between, from
Mhm.
last year to even now. Um, and then you have the seller's market phase one, which is demand has reached its highest point. There's plenty of investors that want to buy what you're selling. And then seller's market phase two, job growth slows, properties take longer to sell, and the market is slowly getting oversupplied by new development. So you can kind of tell, like, once you kind of recognize these market cycles or these phases, you'll kind of know how to make decisions based off of that.
Mhm.
So when job growth increases, or and you start following the news in your market, you can know how to strategize. Okay, I'm actually going to start investing in this market because there's job growth, there's new
Mhm.
developments that's going to be happening. Whereas the opposite, if you see things starting to slow down, that's usually signs, okay, I need to sell and like reinvest it somewhere else. So it's a really great book for anybody that wants to really learn how to look at real estate as an investor instead of just like, just a regular person just wanting to just invest just because. If you really want to look at this as a long game, not just as like a tired landlord sort of thing. So that's a really great resource to use for these sort of circumstances.
No, I think that's, I mean, I think people need to educate themselves really, just because I know that, with books like these and understanding, someone that understands the market, a lot of people just don't want to maybe jump in because of, even jump in to do real estate because of uh, the word recession, right? And
Right.
like,
It's scary.
yeah, exactly. Because when you think about it, you think about what you kind of went through in 2008, or what, people were doing, or the people are saying they're losing their jobs and stuff like that. So it goes back into the fear of, okay, how how am I going to navigate this? How am I going to get into real estate without having any money, or, having a job and all of this? So and the investors thrive on that, really. They thrive
Right.
on bad markets, and that's how, I mean, if you think about like the industrial revolution and all of the, when you're going way back, this is
Mhm.
where a lot of people capitalized,
Right.
and that's where that generational wealth came from. And so if you're investing in a recession now, that can generate generational wealth for you in the future. And that's kind of, we just want to kind of open your eyes and change your mindset about what a recession could do for you, right?
Right.
Not what a recession will do to you.
Mm, I
So,
love that. That's a bar right there.
drop the mic on that one, huh?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're the biggest investment. Um, and obviously COVID kind of like affected a lot, Liz. We're probably here because of COVID and all the resources that were put in for people. The PPP program, you have all the stimulus checks that were sent out that people use to buy Jordans
Right,
or whatever.
right.
But you see there's people who actually came out millionaires out of that, out of COVID,
Yeah.
because they were laid off and they were back was against the wall, and they found real estate, they found wholesaling, and there's no excuses in that sense. Like you can make money at any point. There's money to be made.
Hmm.
Now there's different strategies on how you do it. But once you can kind of learn, like I mentioned before, how to make money. So if even starting in wholesaling, using the funds there, like if you close $20,000 deals, $50,000 deals, you can
Hmm.
use that money instead of using your own money to start off with to either reinvest it into your education or into buying a property. You can just use a down payment with those funds, right, to invest. And another thing too is you can partner with people that you trust. Of course, you have to do some vetting process there, but I think I heard a group of young men. I think it was like five of them who saved up money all together, put it all in a pot, and put it down on a multifamily property. So there's different ways that you can invest in real estate. I think Tim mentioned earlier, owner finance is one where you basically create a note with the seller, and you pay them off through monthly payments through time, however long they want to be paid like that for. So there's so many opportunities. Just people haven't opened their eyes, like you said,
Hmm.
and learned how to make money. We're really good at being consumers, and consuming and taking. But when it comes to actually learning how to make money, when we say, "Oh, we need more," I need more money. I need this. Like, think outside the box. Like, how can I make more money? People are making money out of nowhere. Out of nowhere. Like
Hmm.
the things I learned that people make money from. it amazes me. You really have to think outside the box, and that's that entrepreneurial mindset that you really have to have.
Right.
Obviously, it's easier said than done, but it's possible. You just have to kind of put yourself in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is that when people uh, have a certain mindset or a worker's mentality and all this, they buy into what the media is saying and buying in
Yeah.
what you know I guess what they see around them, because I know you're a product of your environment sometimes,
Hmm.
but you don't have to be, right? You can be educated in a field like real estate, and then surround yourself with like-minded people in that industry, and then you educate yourself on how it really is, in the market. So I think I really think that that's important too, because you can change your life just by making the right decisions when you're getting into real estate. And so, like, a recession doesn't really scare you, right? And I understand people. No, don't get me wrong. Like, people are in, they need money, right?
Right.
They're in a position where, if they don't have their paycheck, then they don't have rent or can't eat or anything. We're not saying quit your job and invest
Right.
in property with your savings, or you know you know do anything like crazy like that. We're just saying
Right.
that there's ways to um, take advantage of certain strategies during a recession that will benefit you in the future.
Right. Exactly. It's just kind of taking actions. And if you have a job, if you have a 9 to 5, and you have some extra income that you can use instead of spending it on clothes that you really don't need, or those J's that you really don't need, invest it in a course, or invest it in some form of education that can kind of take you further.
Hmm.
I think that's the problem is people, it all starts with mindset. And I know yesterday we had a call, in our real estate group with Chris Jefferson. And you know it all stemmed on mindset. Is like,
Hmm.
it's how you approach things. So if you come in with a victim's mentality, especially and I've noticed this working at my 9 to 5, the way people approach things, when there's like a problem. Or I know some people that, I know other people who got laid off, and the way they approach things, you have to really have that entrepreneurial mindset. Or not even entrepreneurial, just that mindset of like, I'm going to figure it out. Or instead of just having that mentality of like, oh, why is this happening to me?
Hmm.
Woe is me. Take action. How can I make more money? Like, oh, like there's people on YouTube, on Instagram making money. Figure that out. Once you can figure that out, and you add on the extra education and understand, especially if you're in real estate, the real estate cycles, it'll
Hmm.
start becoming predictable, and you'll kind of know your next steps. It's chess, not checkers. People say that a ton.
Right.
But it's true. You kind of have to look at it in that way, and that's where the mindset of an investor is so different.
Hmm.
Where sometimes you want people, when you make a decision, to be like scratching their head and telling you, "I don't know if that was a good decision."
Hmm.
That means
Hmm.
you're doing the right thing,
Right.
from from
Right.
from experience of
Hmm.
people who have made investments. And people are telling you like, why are you investing in that neighborhood? Like,
Hmm.
it's the hood or whatever. But you,
Right.
as an investor, you did your research. Oh,
Exactly.
there's job growth. Oh, I checked in with the city council, and they're developing new areas, or they're
Hmm.
putting their, a new company is coming in there. That tells me as an investor, oh, I should invest in that area. It may not be good for right now, but maybe in the next year or two, that's where the roots sprout. So you got to come in with that mindset, educate on how other investors are looking into these sort of scenarios, and just take baby action steps. I guess.
Yeah. I think research is a big part of it too, and then having conversations within your market as well too. And you're absolutely right. Just like, I think you had posted something about the
I
railway.
did.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
about that. So is just learning about what's happening in your market. And I think that's super helpful because if something is, if the city is spending money to actually build something somewhere in your city, they think it's something that is going to be um, beneficial for the community, right? So
Right.
why wouldn't you invest in those type of areas or close to those areas to see if you could capitalize on some investments or look into those areas to see how you can benefit some of those people, one, and solve problems there too, right? So
Mhm.
I mean, it's not all about you know capitalizing on the money side. It's all about, okay, how are we going to solve a solution in that, because that we still have a housing shortage, right? And
Right.
we're still builders and developers are still trying to scramble to actually build, but right now the money is too expensive because the interest rates to borrow money to actually get projects done doesn't make sense, on
Right.
in certain areas. So that's another thing that um, like if you invest in existing properties, that might be a play, right, for you.
Right. Yeah, and in that post that I made, I also talked about gentrification, which I've
Yeah,
experienced living in
100%.
the Bay Area. Um, instead of looking back of like, what the hell, they're just taking over. I think this is where financial literacy, and I even mentioned it there, is so super key. And it's like, let's empower our communities to learn how to invest. Hey, let's get together, like I mentioned earlier, and let's save this money, or whatever it is. Let's start a business. Uh, it starts there, and that's where the mentality block is too. Is I was raised. I wasn't raised by, I'm a first generation. Both my
Hmm.
parents were immigrants, so they came in with like, hey, in order to be successful you have to work hard,
Hmm.
and then you'll be rewarded. But that's not how it works. uh, the way it works is, you have to think outside the box. You have to put yourself out there, when everybody else is telling you no. And I never thought, being a millionaire, I never thought that was reachable. I didn't think it was for me,
Hmm.
because I
Hmm.
was raised in the circle where it's like, yeah, millionaires, you'll never reach that.
Hmm.
So you really, especially as people of color, we have to break that mindset
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
we're worth that. We're worth being millionaires. We're worth being billionaires.
Yeah.
Imagine what you can do, what kind of communities you can change, and why we create this platform to help educate people, or at least to kind of create triggers for them to want to learn more. So I think it's also a part of the mental block of people of color, the Black, Latino
Hmm.
communities, to learn. And I think it's happening. It's
Yeah.
slowly happening. So instead of being on the one side of like, oh, they just raised the rent, I can't afford it. You can kind of learn the process, learn how to make money, and be part of those investment groups that are taking
Hmm.
advantage. Because the on the larger scale, people don't want, these millionaires that have been, old money. They don't want you learning this stuff. That's why it's not in our high school education, college education. You have to really like fight for this knowledge. They want to keep it all to themselves, but that's not, it's clearly that's not going to happen.
No.
So it's breaking that mindset cycle. I think at least it was for me, on telling myself I was
Hmm.
worth it.
No, I agree. I kind of grew up that way too. I mean, we didn't have nothing, and then I'm an immigrant myself. Like I was born in Korea, and my dad was in the military. So, um, and then I came here when I was like 2 or 3 years old,
Mhm.
and and I've been here ever since. So all I know is being in America basically, and we didn't really have that much money growing up, and I only knew one way on how to do real estate, and I think that's 90% of people
Mhm.
in America is that you have to qualify for a loan, and then you go look for a house and get a realtor and all that stuff. So, um, you know, and it took me all this time just to get educated on it. And I'm just, wherever your age and you want to get into this, it doesn't matter. It's just you need to educate yourself, no matter your situation as well, because the people that you grew up or they only know a certain way, right?
Right.
And so it's up to you to kind of educate, because you're not going to learn it in school. That's
No.
definitely not, so
Right.
um, it's they teach, school and college teach you how to work for other people, right? And that's kind of the mentality there, workers mentality. And when you
Yeah.
get into an entrepreneurship, it's like, you're making money for yourself, you're building a business, and then how do you capitalize on making more money to for your family, and how to survive, um, you know, the business ups and downs, and the mental, um, you know, I guess warfare that's going on, because it's like, mentally challenging to run a business, but it's actually 100% satisfying at the same time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the biggest thing is yeah, obviously breaking that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And um not everybody is, has that entrepreneurial mindset or has that
Right.
entrepreneurial wants to follow that path. And
And
that's
that's
okay.
okay. Yeah.
And I think the main thing here is we're not telling you to become business owners or anything like that. But to invest your money, or there's plenty of people that do passive investing.
100%.
Obviously they do invest in stocks, crypto. I mean, depending on where we're at right now with crypto, but or IRAs. There's life insurance. People do all of that and are very successful. Or partner with work with active investors who are finding deals, say, especially multifamily. And then they just, you see doctors, lawyers who it's like, hey, I have my money. I have plenty of money, but I don't want to manage properties, or I don't want to, run a portfolio, whatever. You do the hard work while I just collect checks. Like you could do that. You can be in that opportunity, or you can have that opportunity. It just either way, you should be investing in one way, especially our Black and Brown communities
Mhm.
that just don't know that they could do that. Like there's plenty of opportunities, um, and it's just kind of working with other people, like-minded people, and just having your money work for you. So I think that's the biggest thing in becoming millionaires, and having all those actions you've taken, and having it compound into to the point where you are a millionaire because you're investing and just being smart with your investments.
Mhm.
So I know we're kind of approaching the half hour mark, but anybody, feel free to reach out to us.
Mhm.
We're here for you. Obviously, we're hoping to work on a course that we can share with people to really learn the real estate, at least the basics of real estate investing.
Mhm.
Um, but the main thing is find ways to make money. Figure it out. If you
Yeah.
can just go on IG, go on YouTube, there's plenty of ways you can make money, whether it's buying a business, or
Mhm.
wholesaling or flipping, although maybe flipping isn't the best strategy right now. Investing in multifamily. There's so many avenues. Just pick an avenue that kind of you're gravitated towards, and like learn, or join a course, and you'll figure it out. Like
Mhm.
there's so many opportunities out there. I think people are blinded, but so once you're kind of have that idea of what the possibilities, like it's endless. Then you're looking at anything you look at as an opportunity. That's one thing
Yeah.
I've learned too.
Yeah. I think that's so, I think, important, because I think what people need to understand is that there's more opportunities now to make money than there were when we were like teenagers or kids, right? So, um, it just depends on what route you want to go, and just don't think you're limited to a certain amount, because real estate kind of opened my eyes, and I'm sure it opened your eyes to the possibilities of actually being a millionaire or
Right.
making substantial amount of money. And because it's life changing. Even like a $10,000 check could be life changing to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So, um, and just don't take that as, oh, I'm making like $5,000. Well, someone could be using that $5,000 to change their life, right? So,
Right.
I mean, you got to think your mindset has to be different. Like, wow, I can basically double what I just made by doing the same process or shifting my strategy a little bit in whatever
Mhm.
business that you're in. So I would just
Love
keep
that.
an open mind and, learn the craft and then take action, 100% take action, and then know the strategies as well. So,
Yeah, definitely. That's the play right there. I think like we said, it starts with your mindset. So before anything, just really get like imagine yourself already there, like the life that you want to live. If it is that you want to be a millionaire, and just kind of reverse engineer it, invest in courses like we said, reinvest your money and have your money work for you. Even if you have a 9 to 5, whatever it is, partner up with somebody. It's endless. Opportunities are endless. So I really hope you got something out of it, out of this episode. We're here for you guys. If you need anything, feel free to reach out. I think Tim's is Mr. Tim REI. I'm at the Real Gladia, and uh, yeah, what we'll be back next week. Uh, I love that. Yeah, speak it into existence.
yes,
That's exactly
100%.
it. Whatever you can do, but appreciate you guys tuning in and showing your love. We'll be back next week, same time, different topic, and you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Talk to y'all later.
All right.